We all heard the tales since we were young. One solemn day off with the old Al Bundy sitting position, just watching some good old TV. I hear the phone ring, and I look at the caller ID. It's Curtis. One TGIF night with some family dealings and a few other shows to fill the nighttime slots. And I was chewing on some salted peanuts in a candy bar and washed it down with some soda. I answered the phone finally. While I was brain deep into the current episode, that was of course a rerun during the summertime break. But back to the story at hand and not the boob tube in front of me. So Curtis told me that in a recent house that was just renovated and now is known as the old haunted house down Knox. It was just put on the market. After the development had been nearly completed, during the early days of this build site, the construction crew had found a hidden room, and there was a cigar box in the middle of the room, along with a tape recorder and some tape ready to be played from its current position. We talked for a few and caught up, and the time just seemed to get away from us, with the radio as the soundtrack to this conversation. As we talk, I can hear Old Man Wolf giving his words of wisdom, or whatever comes to his mind, actually.
All right, come on and turn up that FM radio to 11, baby. Shout it out, because that's what this music is all about.
As the radio fades back into the distance, I bring myself back to the topic at hand. He told me the origins of the area and gave me names and dates to confirm all that he knows. Later, he asked me if I had a way of recording something over the phone, on a tape or something. Well, of course I did. Tools of the trade, don't you know? He told me to start recording, and I turned on the telephone tape recorder and took the audio and placed it onto the tape. It was usually about 6 hours per tape side. He continued. During the Cold War, there was a set of houses built near the villa. But before then, it was just farmland. But for a year or so, there was a bit of land development and some foundations laid down. And there were even a few beginner houses that were only half built. During this time, one of the construction workers found the old cigar box. With the old box was a tape recorder that had a piece of paper taped to it, and it warned of what was on the tape, and to play the tape and not touch the box until the tape is done. It seemed that anyone that played this tape had some bad luck to go along with it. So I wanted to warn you now, and also get your consent to play the tape. He asked me. Yeah, totally, I say over the phone. Okay, I have the tape with me, and I'm gonna play it for you now. The tape begins with the man telling of how he and his wife came to this town, so he could be a teacher that was needed. The couple bought a house that was just up on the market. When they got to the home, it was fully furnished and near around $80 a month. Not bad for a teacher's wage. They also have a car payment, and gas was about 30 cents per gallon at the time of this recording, which is around the early 1960s, I'm guessing. The voice from the audio kept going. According to the newspaper clippings found in the box and on the tape, it was about a murder in the area around 1962. Odd. Maybe it was a misprint, because it is only 1961. At the time, about what the voice on the tape said. As the reel played on, the man told the address of the place. Weird, that's the same address as this place. So the voice continued on about them moving into the house and with the few belongings that they had. And they had their month, or until school started, just enough time to get settled. The first few nights they were there, they were so tired that they didn't have any problems at all falling asleep. But after a few days, sleep was always interrupted. The voice on the tape continued. Later the first night, I can remember hearing something in the distance that woke me up. There was a howl in the distance. I got out of bed to see what it was, but yet my wife was still asleep, right next to me. Later, I followed some of the howlings. I followed it outside through the night, and it came from the area right outside the back door. I walked outside the entire perimeter of the property that I could, and saw nothing. I kept my flashlight turned on and tried to be as quiet as I could, as I had done some searching outside
And inside the house, while searching, I searched down into the basement, and then I found a blueprint, and it was on a long table. I placed my flashlight on the wooden plank and unrolled the blueprints. It seemed that from the look of the blueprint, there were areas that were rooms, but then they're still considered outside. There was a noise from above my head, and I let go of the blueprint roll, and it rolled up as if someone had rolled it shut. And I grabbed my flashlight and ran upstairs to where I heard the sound. I walked through the kitchen, then towards the living room where I heard the sound come from. I looked around the dark room that was only lit up by my flashlight. I walked to each room, looking at every corner twice. If someone was in the house, I wanted to make sure that I had looked to try and find them. I hadn't seen any window broken or even open. I finished up looking into the rooms, and seemed every crevice and every cranny was looked into. But I made another round outside, and then got back and nothing. Not even a peep. I go to bed and toss and turn for most of the night. Good thing it's the weekend tomorrow, and I can sleep in. But another sound woke me from my sleep. What sounded like claws dragging across the window in the next room. I heard a low growl and what sounded like a mountain lion, but not like a mountain lion. It sounded like it was something trying to be like a mountain lion. So as I heard this, I froze. I listened. I could hear nothing. A few minutes had gone by without any other sound. I decided to try to go to sleep more, but then I heard a low growl near the window, right next to the bed. I could hear something like a thudding against the window, and I really didn't want to look to see what it was. I slowly turned. In the breaks of silence, very small moments, I finally made an eye to the window, and I can see the moonlit night with the trees and grass in the yard, but nothing else. But what I thought was trees off to the side, an eye opened and was looking straight at me. My heart froze, as well as the rest of me. I felt this cold come over me and just laid there like a deer caught in the headlights. And I had begun to perspire profusely. Gosh, I didn't even want to try to blink, and the painful burn of dry eye was about to drive me up the wall. As I blinked, because of course I couldn't stand it any longer, when my vision cleared back up right after several seconds, and batted my eyes to get them well lubricated again, there was nothing at the window anymore. Turned over with both eyes wide open. I seen nothing but an open yard dimly lit with the paleness. I turn over, and my wife Marie isn't there. I searched all over the house for her. A moment passed through the past couple of nights with no sight of Marie. I was beside myself, and I kept thinking of when we had first met. I started calling her my calico girlfriend, due to the fact that her eyes had a brilliant contrast of blue and a gold color, and her hair was of natural highlights in a sea of dark hair. The calico girlfriend that I made my wife, and I brought her out to this wretched house. And now she is missing, and I had already gone to the cops the first night that she was missing, and I didn't stand not knowing where she is. I think the police are tired of hearing me because I call them at least twice a day, seeing if they had any leads. They always assure me that when they find out anything, they will let me know as soon as they can. I can't turn on the TV or even the radio because that sends my mind into thinking of us and the life that we had together. I've been outside this place rather than inside because inside these closed walls, they get closer and closer by the hour. And I'm going insane trying to figure out what happened to her and how I can find her and how I can save her and how I can bring her back. And I kept away from the thought of her never coming back again, or even worse, her body being found. I just wanted to find something, anything that could help me not go insane. The hours seemed to go on for days, but without food and hardly any water at all, but with some scotch. I can remember the night, but I remember the police officer checking up on me and seeing how I was doing, and I am stumbling around the yard, and he decided that he's going to actually help me get inside and try to sober me up. After a lifetime of driving the porcelain bus, I was finally able to get a hold of reality and to hold an actual conversation with Officer Pike. And he also helped me for a half a day to gain my senses again. I told him that I have done nothing but go around the property looking for any clues, and I can't be inside, and I'm starting to have an attack again. And it feels like the walls are closing in. Closer and closer. So he walked me back outside and gave me some water that he had in a thermos in his cruiser. And he told me that he would take me back to his place so that I could have a change of scenery and I could get some sleep. And that he would have someone posted out right in front, just in case Marie showed up. I agreed to this. I guess my mind and body knew that I needed sleep and to sober back up, so that I could be ready to help find my wife the next day.
The tape ended with not much else. There were lots of questions, especially by the husband. The days went into weeks, and the weeks went into months. The months went along without any payments to the mortgage company. He fell behind in a lot of bills and actually lost it all and was forced to move elsewhere. According to the investigator, this poor man had to live with his sister, and she basically had to take care of him and had to be put into a hospital to deal with losing his wife in such a way. Even though he didn't own the property, he would still go around and look for his wife, even though there was a new family that had just moved in. And many a time, the local police had to arrest him on trespassing private property. After he was fully admitted into the asylum, there was little in the way of paranormal events, or any. The next few families lived in the house with no issues. But it was until some spiritual woman that lived with their few friends or lovers, and they had brought with them a Ouija board. And with the board brought many spiritual beings that was only out for themselves, and to destruct anyone that was around. After many happenings because of the Ouija board, the family moved out, and a few more families moved in, and through the years, they all eventually left. There had been talk around the town about this house and how bad it was haunted, that no one would ever want to even live here, not even long term. And yeah, that's basically true. After a few times the local church coming into this house and trying to bless it, it was all in vain. In the 1970s, there was a small family that had just moved into the house. It was a younger woman and her 3 kids, along with her mother. The woman recently widowed. Her mother came along to help with her new life because the grandmother's husband passed not long before of a heart attack while alone in the apartment. So it was time for this family to pick up and move away from the problem of recent loss. But little did they know that bigger problems were right around the next experience of life. Many a days and nights were filled with voices in the walls and shadows around every corner, even under the floor and above. So basically, all around. Where did I get all this information from? Well, my friend Curtis. He actually went to the house and to the neighbors and talked to them about what had happened at this house. And from the time that they had moved in, and most of the stories were the same, but other stories told a bit of a different story. It seems that though both neighbors had been outside looking at what was going on in the ghost house, one saw one thing and the other neighbor saw another. But the one big time that they remember was when the grandmother had so-called killed the family in the house and ran out wild and screaming her head off. Some say the grandmother did it, while others say something in the house actually did it, and the grandmother just found them. Maybe the grandmother was safe because she slept with the Bible next to her pillow and would pray and read every night. Many stories of the local lore. So which one was actually true? Who knows? Not really any way to verify it. So yeah, I wonder if you would go into this town and to this house and stay the night and document it all. But from the story of the local police report, told that the family had been asleep and each were stabbed 13 times. And none of them woke up or yelled during this horrible event. Moments or hours later, the neighbors heard a yelling, crying, or something from the house. They were outside and saw each light turn on to each room, and more yelling during each click of the light. After a moment of silence, the grandmother came out of the house yelling and running around as if she had lost her mind. The neighbor decided to call the police. They arrived later and went inside and put a bolo out on the grandmother. About half an hour later, there were vehicles showing up to secure the area and take the bodies away. Not much else is known about this incident. So I told my friend that I would head out and get a start on it in the morning, and would call Boss and let him know that I have a story for him, and I know he would be thankful for that. And Curtis thanked me too many times, and we hung up. Well, it looks like I have my weekend and a few days extra full ahead of me. As I was getting packed up and ready for bed, my mind was just racing about what all I needed to get ready for the investigation and to get the ride mapped out. I was all ready, so I hit the bed with the force and passed out. After about an hour of tossing and turning, of course. The night was filled with fades to scenes of what my friend had told me.
All right, you cats and kittens, go ahead and get ready for some fun. And go ahead and clap your feet and stomp your hands, or rather the other way around. So come on for some moving and grooving, baby. Let's get down to it.